But I can tell you that you cannot see that component with the naked eye. Some people can. They have a 50-20 vision, but the average person will not be able to see that component if it's not under a microscope. Size 201. There's still a smaller component than this one, size 1005, but size 201 is very, very small. I mean, even under the microscope, it looks small. Right, so we have enough solder on the pads and get rid of the glare. Now we're gonna apply Amtech 559 flux, and if you are new to the channel, we are a distributor of the flux. You can buy directly from us as an individual syringe or wholesale. We need the PS5 connector. Now what I did is I pre-applied solder onto those pads, and now we're gonna reflow that connector down in place. And by doing that, we're gonna get a better than factory connection. Just press and hold. Press and hold, keep holding. All right, and let's go ahead and check. Make sure all the pins are solid and looking better than factory. In just a minute, we have a customer, but let me test this quick before I get out to the customer. Be right there. Solid, 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 solid. And it goes on from there. Solid everywhere, everywhere. Yes. Every single pin is super solid. In just a minute, I'll be back. Just finished with that customer. They came from Bakersfield. They brought in a Surface Pro 4. He brought that Surface Pro in about 3 days ago. And I told him it's not really worth it to work on a Surface Pro 4. And if we are to open it to check on the hard drive, there's a chance that the screen can break. And he said, I do not care about the tablet, but I want my information. So we took it in as a data recovery job. I got their data, and they just came to pick up. They're so happy, and they drove all the way from Bakersfield, California. They learned the lesson to back up. They're in the real estate insurance business, and they were going crazy about the information on that Surface Pro. We have better than factory joints here. Let me grab our precision probe. Solid. We already said solid too many times, so let's just say solid at the last pin. But honestly, I cannot help it. Solid, solid, and solid. Beautiful.
That is locked.
We did an amazing job.
Have a good
amazing
one.
job. How nice is it when customers mail a device over without any rip pads? How nice is that? And as you can see, we replaced the connector for the customer and did not keep his old one, so we can do a better than factory job. We also replaced that capacitor, and now we have to add solder to the lugs on the back. Then Big Boss can reassemble, test, invoice, and mail it back to the customer. So we're gonna apply solder, then we're gonna reflow, then we're gonna apply solder again. And again, I do not have the big tip, so I have no idea where I lost that tip. It should be on my bench. I use it every single day. Every single day. I looked on the floor. I see nothing. And I never placed the tip on the other bench, but I did look and nothing. Where is it? You see, the board is too thick. And the tip cannot keep up with heat dissipation because it's small. Now, as you notice, I'm using the side of the soldering iron tip so we can supply as much heat as possible. Now that we applied solder, let's use hot air so solder can flow down all the way to the front of the board. And we'll do that while using our soldering iron, just like that. Same here, and same here. Let me just check and make sure that this connector did not pull off. Just look at the solder. Look at how solder flew all the way to the front. Check on the pins one more time before we continue working on the legs, back of the board. Sometimes what happens is when you apply hot air from the back, the front pins can pull off the board. You just want to make sure that those pins did not pull off the board. And we're good. So apply flux again. And then we're gonna do one more layer of solder. And that way we are better than factory. Even when it's not better than factory, it's still better than factory. I know that's confusing, but what can you do? Let's clean up. And if you are able to fix your hair by looking at those joints, or if you're a lady, able to fix your makeup by looking at those joints, then we know that we did an amazing job. You can even use this as a security mirror at your business to look out for thieves if you want. So it's a multi-purpose shiny joint. Multi-purpose. Now if we flip the board, let's clean up in the front. And just look at how solder flew all the way to the front of the board. That's amazing. And one last test before we give it to Big Boss to reassemble and test. This is the last week for Big Boss here. He's traveling on Saturday for 1 month, and I'm gonna have to deal with it. I'm gonna be taking less repairs. I'm still gonna be taking repairs, but if somebody wanna mail over a motherboard or stuff that I do not have to take apart, I do not have time to take stuff apart. Let's test. I mean, it has to work. If it's an HDMI connector issue, it has to work because we did a better than factory job. If it turns on, of course. Of course it's gonna work. Of course. That's it. Done. this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll do something else in the next video.
Law Barista Sublime, a new compact coffee machine, a world of exceptional coffee creations. Law Barista, infinite creations, infinite pleasure.
All right, we just had a customer that came in and brought a vehicle diagnostic device. I never seen that device in my life. It looks something like this. And he told me the model number on this one is, I wrote it down here as the title of the ticket. The model number is VAS6154A, diagnostic dongle. He said the device is very important to him. He took it to several shops and they refused to work on it. The problem with this one, he said, the cable was shoved in too hard, and he believes the connector is the problem. So after exhausting all options and not finding any shop to work on it, he opened it up and he attempted to work on the connector. And so I told him it's a Hiroshima, and he laughed. He watches the channel, and it is a Hiroshima. Let's take a look. The customer attempted to solder, and of course soldering takes experience. You cannot just go and watch one video and use any soldering iron and expect to do a good job. If you're skilled, you can use a cheap soldering iron and do the job. Just like a basketball player, if you give him a soccer ball and tell him, can you use that to shoot it and get it inside the hoop, he's going to be able to do it because of his experience. Even if you give him a tennis ball, he may be able to get it in. But when you do not have experience and you are using cheap tools, big tip possibly, or not enough heat on the soldering iron, or I do not know what type of solder was used, or I do not know if flux was used. I do not see, or I do see signs of flux. Or maybe the solder itself has a core flux. That's what you get. That's the result that you get when you do not have the experience. I do see two missing pads. One here, and the one next to it, and the one next to it, right? Or maybe, yeah, we have 3 missing pads. We can restore those pads, no problem. We just have to see where that trace is going. This one looks like it's going here, and this one looks like it's going here. Now, the good thing about the customer is he brought in 2 donor devices that we can extract the connector from. Big Boss opened up one of the donor devices, and the charging connector just fell off. So I do not know if that's a common problem with those devices, but I did not even have to heat up the board to remove the connector. We already have a connector here that we can use. We may also be able to use the same connector that's on the board now, but we have to fix the traces. So we have to remove that connector to work on the board. If you look at the connector, it looks good. I do not see anything wrong with it. And the connector is not a through hole. It's an SMT connector, surface mount. So how should we remove that connector? There are 101 ways to remove the connector, but I want to try my hot tweezers and see if I can remove that connector with just my hot tweezers and nothing else. I'm going to tilt the board so we can have that tip flat on that connector, and let's see if we can do it that way. Look at that. And every single pad is missing. Are you kidding me? Every single pad is missing. It did not look like it when that connector was on the board. All the pads are gone. And now we're going to be using our grinding pen to grind